Good morning. Hi, I am Stephanie Bateman from Gorgeous, and I am so excited to be here today. There's so much to learn, and I'm thrilled and honored, and we're happy to be here. Is anyone familiar with Gorgeous? Have you heard of it? Oh, great, a couple. That's wonderful. We're an e-commerce help desk. We take all of your sport tickets from every channel, and we put them all in one place, making it really efficient and turning your customer service team really into a revenue stream. And so I'm very excited to be here and to be introducing this panel particularly because they're going to talk about innovation and being, future focused and how you adapt. And I think that's kind of where Gorgeous came from. There's a lot of help desks out there, but we were founded because there was a need specifically for one that is built for e-commerce and also for D2C brands. And so that's really what we are. So I look forward to connecting with you all today and learning a lot. And I am very excited to introduce Nicole Lapin. She is going to introduce the next panel. She is, our next panel is called Innovative D2C Leaders. She is the host of the daily iHeartRadio show called Money Rehab with Nicole Lapin. She's a New York Times bestselling author, and she's been a financial journalist and anchor for 20 years, working with CNN, CNBC, and Bloomberg. I made a joke before that she probably doesn't sleep, and then she reminded me money doesn't sleep. So I'm very excited to introduce her, and I'll hand it over to her to introduce the panel. Thank you all.
Hi. So excited to be here back in person. I'm going to let this fantastic panel introduce themselves because nobody wants to hear from me, these amazing, innovative founders. Alex, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Alex Friedman. I'm co-founder, co-CEO of Lola. We are a lifelong brand for women, and we started in ingredients transparent tampons in 2015 when my co-founder and I realized that we couldn't figure out what was in the mainstream brand's products. And we looked at the side of a box of tampons. It said ingredients may contain, and that wasn't good enough in any other category. So why would that be good enough for our period care? Over the years, we have built a much broader portfolio as we've discovered that ingredients transparency doesn't traditionally happen in sexual wellness or fertility or postpartum or menopause and beyond. And so what we're building is a platform for women to have those products, content community, and eventually digital products end to end for their lives.
Ariane.
Hi, Ariane Goldman, founder and CEO of Hatch. Hatch is a brand designed for women about to embark on the journey of motherhood. So I came up with the company when I was pregnant with my first daughter and realized that there was a white space in maternity. I was nervous, excited, lonely, and looking for someone ahead of me to tell me about the journey I was about to embark on. And I was absolutely stunned that there was no one doing that. So I created Hatch with the intention that you can invest in yourself during this moment and buy clothing that you can wear before, during, and after pregnancy, so it's not disposable. Since then, Hatch has evolved into much more than just selling clothes. We've created a non-toxic skincare line, but most importantly, over the last few years, we've developed an incredible community, and we've been a resource for women entering maternity and pregnancy and infertility, and really providing all solutions across product and education to women going through this time so that they know they're not alone.
And your first company, I love, please, can we just briefly mention the best dress ever?
Prior to that, when I was getting married, I saw a white space in the bridal market, and so I started a company that kind of appeased bridesmaids who didn't want to spend $300 on a dress that they would never wear again, for those of you that are old enough to remember the movie 27 Dresses. And so as an entrepreneur, I've been kind of following these white spaces along my own personal journey, and I laugh because the next one would be like geriatric underwear after I'm done.
Necessary. Cute geriatric underwear. You heard it here first. Sarah?
Yeah, we should do that together. Hey, I'm Sarah Zarell. I am a serial entrepreneur. I have co-founded 2 companies. My first company was called Pavement. It was like Airbnb for parking. We pivoted and ended up providing a suite of tools for existing parking operators, including contactless valet. My second company is called Eternal Fleur. We have flowers that last for 365 days without sunlight and water, and are actually opening up an enterprise solution, kind of think Rent the Runway for flowers, targeting hospitality and events, so you don't have to throw away your flowers after every event. They can be reused and rented. And then I have just am dabbling in the corporate world and actually took a job as the chief marketing officer of Chinese Laundry Shoes, which is a 40-year-old brand. And so I get to come in to the D2C space and revitalize a legacy brand, which is really exciting.
And those are Chinese laundry.
These are Chinese laundry.
They're so cute.
Yeah, they're actually our luxury line, 42 gold. We have 4 brands, so yeah, I get to separate all of them, which is a really fun and exciting challenge.
So it's not your prom shoe anymore.
It's not your prom shoe anymore. It's your
But
everyday
they
shoe.
were good prom shoes.
You can still wear them to prom.
Okay, so we're at Founder Made. The first question I want to ask all of you founders, were you a founder who was born or made?
You want to start going down the line, or
You pick, whoever wants to go first. Ariane.
Sure. Excuse me. I was always a founder in my mind, but I worked in corporate America for 9 years. For 9 years before I decided to jump ship. I got an internship at American Express, a wonderful organization to work for, and I kind of funneled through growing there. They inspire you to switch jobs, get different experiences under your belt. And then at the time that I was about 28, 29 years old, I realized that I had so much more kind of flowing through me to start my own thing, and I was waiting for that light bulb to go off. And that's when my own life events kind of was the inspiration behind me jumping ship and doing it. So where I think that question's interesting is also the wisdom that you gain as a founder and the pain that you go through has also made me into something so much stronger and wiser than I could have ever imagined. So it's kind of a mixed bag.
Can you tell us briefly about when you first started Hatch and no one went to the website for a few months?
Yes, so I had started my first company, Two Birds, as a side hustle because I was too nervous to leave my corporate paycheck. I really needed that to kind of pay the rent, yada, yada. And so that was a side hustle. Once I got on the Martha Stewart show and was able to kind of prove the concept and the phone started ringing, that gave me the confidence to jump ship from my corporate job and really kind of start funneling the business and building it as an entrepreneur. It was that confidence that then made me realize I should do it again when I saw the white space in maternity. Different business model. At the time, Warby was launching. It was, I don't want to date myself, but it was quite a while ago. And I decided it was a different business model, D2C, and you had to buy inventory and really kind of put the risk up front. And so I built this beautiful website under this notion that if you build it, they will come, and nobody came. And so it was quite humbling, as business is. And the first couple months I said to my husband, I really screwed this up. I took our savings, I put it in here. I self-funded the business for the first 6 years, and so this was quite a personal risk. And lo and behold, a writer from the style section of the New York Times called me and said, I get what you're doing, and we're going to write something about you. And it didn't convert the New York, some of these articles aren't necessarily sales converters, but it just led to the next door opening. And so I stuck with it, and the rest is history.
And Meghan Markle's
Yes.
first maternity dress.
Yes,
she was
I've had-
photographed in.
Yeah, fortunately I was able to build the brand ground up. I didn't have the money to start from top down, which a lot of the brands over the last couple of years have had the opportunity to do. I actually think that that's the secret to building a long-standing brand, is to actually get out on there, get it in the hands of your customers, get the fanfare so that if an algorithm changes, you're not screwed. And so I've had wonderful support from celebrities and influencers over the years because there's not many options out there, and so we were able to provide them.
Get it in the hands of customers and royals.
There you go.
All right. Perfect.
Amazing. I love that.
Alex, were you a founder born or made, or both?
definitely made. So I worked in management consulting, private equity consulting, venture investing, had no background in starting a company, and then I was an angry consumer and looked around and realized no one else was going to build a solution here. There was like too much stigma in women's reproductive health and in periods specifically. I had never seen venture dollars go to anyone building a business in period care. That has changed a lot over the last 5 or 10 years. It's actually now a topic, but I remember when we were thinking about the concept, like going to NewYorkTimes.com and typing in period or tampon, and those words had never been mentioned in anything that I had read. So there was no conversation, and my co-founder and I just decided, let's get this going. Like, we'll start it off as a project. We'll spend a summer on this and see if consumers are interested. And eventually, kind of 8 or 9 months in, we realized that we had, likely had product market fit, that there was a really big audience for this. And that was when I left my full-time job, terrified, and started the company.
But you didn't know about cotton and like science of tampons and
Oh, I learned a lot. I learned a lot because they're actually medical devices, and it was a whole year of education leading up to it and getting the right advisors on board before we launched.
And you continue to innovate, and I didn't even realize that sales tax went along with feminine hygiene products in many states.
Yeah, it's been actually really interesting. There's a lot of wrong that women bear in this category, from the ingredients to the taxes they pay. Now there's a tampon shortage, which is just like another nice, horrible thing for women to deal with this year. And so there's a lot of injustice across the industry in a lot of ways, and it's been great to build a brand that takes a stand for people.
Thank you for doing that. We'll talk about supply chain issues, fun
Sure.
supply chain issues in a moment. Sarah, were you founder, born, or made?
Well, I was born in a trailer and raised in a cult, so definitely made. My
Topic for overdrinks.
yeah, that's for happy hour later.
But if anyone can do it, Sarah Zarell can do it.
And if I can do it, so can you.
Yeah.
I from a really young age, I was just trying to solve problems. My first business was when I was 8, trying to raise money to go to summer camp, and I started a cake baking business, and my mom charged me for the ingredients in our kitchen, so I learned how to do a P&L very early on, of sorts at least. I just, throughout my career and throughout my life, I've just kind of looked at different issues, like with parking. That was completely as a result of me circling the block, trying to find a place to park in Los Angeles and not having a parking spot, and being like, why can't I just park in that empty driveway? Why can't I do it? And just using technology to create tools to make people's lives better. And with Eternal Fleur, America actually throws away 4 trillion flowers a year. It's really terrible for the environment.
I was at a wedding a couple weeks ago, and I saw all of the flowers, like gorgeous. So you feel, it like hurt my heart.
It's really terrible. And so I was actually able to join Eternal Fleur that had an existing co-founder, Amanda Voites, and she was really focused on D2C. But through the pandemic, she had faced a lot of issues, supply chain issues, and being able to get the flowers and have them preserved, and that made the COGS go through the roof. And so last summer, we actually identified, hey, we can actually shift this. And yes, we can still keep our direct-to-consumer business, but really the unit economics play out much better when we're renting these flowers, and then it also solves a big environmental issue.
True story. And by the way, one of my biggest purchases and favorite flowers, my accountant was like, this Eternal Fleur, I won't even say how much, line item. We need to think about a marketing expense or something else here. I digress. But you touched on supply chain issues, Alex. Obviously, that is top of mind for all direct-to-consumer businesses, all consumer products in general right now during these pandemic times. We've seen a lot of headlines about the tampon shortage. Are you guys experiencing that as well?
So we are doing fine from a supply chain perspective. I think the tampon shortage is mostly affecting the big brands that are making products out of synthetics that have a lot of other use cases, especially during the pandemic. So we have sufficient supply. We're an omni-channel business now. So we started in direct to consumer. We were direct to consumer only for 4 years, and then expanded into retail. We sell nationally at Walmart. We're in Walgreens. We sell on Amazon, and we've seen sales go up pretty tremendously over the last few weeks as consumers are looking for other brands and other products. And I think people are open-minded to get this solution because it's very hard to find the product right now.
Okay. And Ariane, where are you guys with the supply chain issues? I feel like this might be a sore
We're
spot.
all over the place. We're everywhere, which is a good thing because I think that the only way to combat this is to diversify production because we make a lot of things and we have partners across the world, which is something that you can rely on. But it's been really challenging. We've actually done okay on this because we have so much product to sell that we can pivot our messaging. We can push people into different categories. But that being said, it's been a game of whack-a-mole for my team of just kind of between COVID and supply shortages, price increases, shipping. It's just been, a whole new roller coaster of fires to put out. But we're doing okay. And again, I just think by not putting all your eggs in one basket, it just kind of helps you mitigate the things that we can't control, which as founders and owners, you realize are quite abundant around you.
What, you can't control everything? Breaking news. Oh, you guys were opening your third store
Yes.
in the beginning of the pandemic?
Yeah, so Hatch is also omni-channel, and excuse me, we have 2 retail stores, or we did prior to the pandemic. Our third one was underway on the Upper East Side, supposed to launch in March of 2020. Obviously, we had to punt that lease, but we were in crazy negotiations with each landlord, which is a different beast. And so
In
we
New
just
York,
recently, yeah, especially in New York. LA, I mean, everyone's got their own thing. But we finally opened our doors this past September on the Upper East Side, and then Omicron hit, so you just kind of can't win this stuff, and you just have to make sure that you have a really good negotiator on your side of the team, and that you can kind of be resilient and just figure out the economics to stay in the game, because the variables that keep the dodgeballs just keep flying.
I love a good game of whack-a-mole, but do you think it was a blessing in disguise in some ways of how you pivoted?
Look, I think everything that, kind of hurts us makes us stronger. I know that sounds cliche, but it's just true. I mean, we are so wise. We are so strong. We are so much leaner now because we had to preserve cash. We had to figure out, and we didn't fire anyone. We didn't let anyone go. We decided to really make sure that that was a priority. And we just got smart with the money. And, as a founder, I was at the factory all day, kind of trying the clothing on as a fit model. I was packing the bags with UPS. I had an alias with, with my customer service. I was playing every role with the organization. And as you evolve and you grow and you hire people you trust, I would always wake up in the middle of the night knowing that we were being overcharged on FedEx and UPS. And there were all these holes in my mind, but at a certain point, you kind of have to let it go. And I'd say in the last year, all those gaps that were in my mind that kept me up at night, every single one, of those has been looked into and squashed, and we are running a very lean business right now. So that's a silver lining.
And now you have plenty of customer service reps that you don't need to impersonate.
Yes, exactly. I can focus on what I do, and I don't have to play that game anymore.
I also had a fake assistant before I could afford one. Dorothy, if anyone had it. I felt like that was sophisticated. Sarah, what's going on with shoes?
Well, your shoes on average have 37 components in them, and that we manufacture all over the world, and then assemble. So we've definitely been having issues. We have shoes floating in the ocean. It's been difficult because we manufacture a lot in China, naturally, Chinese laundry. And when the pandemic shut down China, that means we weren't able to get any shoes because our shoes weren't being made anymore. But luckily, because we have so much legacy stock, we were able to bring some of people's favorite old styles back and kind of revitalize them and rebrand them. And now we're starting to see for our fall that's coming in right now, we are actually starting to see it start to pick up. But it's a tricky thing because we also can't go to the factories. So then that creates a little bit of quality control issues, and it's just such a multi-layered thing when you're dealing with a product that has so many different components to it, whether it's like the sock and the sole and the buckle and the buttons, and it's just a really complex product.
I didn't even think of that. 37. Dang.
Yeah, 37.
I love a good retro style, though.
Right?
Thank you for bringing those.
Yeah, and in the pandemic, we also started manufacturing in India, Brazil, and Mexico to kind of try to offset and address those issues. But we are deeply invested in China, and most of our C-suite are Chinese, and so it was a really difficult thing for the company to not be able to kind of connect on a personal, in-person level. So,
and there's
it's not
this
been great.
whole cachet too about Made in America, but what are the challenges there, logistically?
Yeah, well, the shipping is a huge logistical issue, even more. And then there's also can be like a stigma around products that are made in China, as we all know. It's highly political issue. And so for us, we really invest in our team in China and run like clean and safe factories and provide jobs and actually bring different folks over that are really thriving to work in LA, which is where we're headquartered. And so we're kind of trying to have a good partnership there and kind of change the tide on people's perception of that.
You mentioned building a team. As genius as all of you ladies are, it's really about the team that you're building, and hiring talent is really hard.com. So Alex, what have been some of your challenges in hiring? What are some lessons you would have told your former founder self?
Great question. So I guess when we first started, we were very lean. We raised a small friends and family round, which I don't even know why it's named that. It was not our friends
Or family.
It was investors. Yeah. So we raised kind of a
Rich people
it
round.
was a totally different. Yeah, it was high net worth round.
Perfect.
And yeah, that was in like late 2014. And we built a kind of 5 or 6 person team. One marketing person, one operations person, one customer service person, an intern, and me and my co-founder. And we all just kind of did everything. Like, we called everyone by their function, but everybody was doing everything all the time. And over time, we were able to specialize a bit. It took us, so we've raised, since then, seed A, B, C. We're raising our D now, and I think the thing I would have told myself maybe is hire some of the senior key hires earlier, just because there's so much to being able to see around corners. And as a founder, you spend years with your hands in everything, trying to disaggregate yourself from things and put in a specialist and manage transitions. And having 1 or 2 key senior hires earlier on, I think, would have been really beneficial in certain areas, just to help see the future a little bit, monitor trends more broadly, and get some, real tenured experience in the door earlier on. We've had we've kind of all grown up with the business, and hired C-level executives and VPs in recent years. And in the early days, we didn't have that, and that made something special too, right? Everyone was entrepreneurial and figuring it out, and didn't have a lot of experience, but I think there's something to, thinking through what are my superpowers, and ours, our product and brand, and making sure that you have those bases covered with experience as early as you can.
Finding some grown-ups. It's tricky though. It's a tricky dance, right? It's almost like a catch-22. You can't get the senior folks without a mature business, and you can't get a mature business without the senior folks.
Yeah, I think it's true unless you actually hand over real opportunity and a leadership potential, and invite people into the inner circle. And I think that really helps you. I've seen some D2C businesses now that are omnichannel really thrive by bringing on that talent and continuing to raise those people through the organization to president, and rising through the years. I think it's really helpful. And equity.
Opportunity equal equity.
Yeah.
What round are you on? A, B, C, D?
We're raising our B now, which is really fun right now.
And how has your hiring, or since you left your alias land, what was the hiring like?
Well, at the beginning, I only hired when, in desperation, right? You have to break before you realize that you need help. And so that was kind of the early rounds of it. And at first they become you hire generalists that can also have their hands in everything. And then only as you kind of grow inch by inch can you start to put real people who are experts in their fields in the gig. I'll say that the biggest eye-opener for me was the humility and the acknowledgement of what I was doing everything, and what I want to do and what I'm not best at, and acknowledging where I feel most insecure was the area that I identified that I really needed help. And that was a huge breakthrough for me, because I was able to go find a COO who kind of did everything that I didn't want to do. And that's really okay, because I'm just not awesome at everything, and I could be better at what I'm good at if I delegate out the things that make me, that I dread, that I didn't want to wake up to, and those were spreadsheets and operations, and I'm not an operator, I'm a visionaire. And so to identify that and to actually own that lane was a huge moment for me. And I was able to go out and find someone who is the yin to my yang. She really runs the business while I'm at the front of the ship, navigating where we're going. So it's just more about understanding what you want to do, what you're good at, and owning and accepting the fact that it's okay not to love it all and to be great at it all.
You're not great at all of it?
No, not at all.
As you are building out your team, Sarah, you're hiring everybody, it sounds like.
Yeah.
What have been some of the challenges?
So at Chinese Laundry, most of the team has been there for at least 20 to 30 years. which is really awesome in some ways, and in others it's challenging because most of the team is ready to retire. Our CEO just turned 80. He's the original founder, and our CFO has been there for 30 years. So it's kind of an exciting transitional time, and I'm the first C-suite hire that they've made in 22 years. And so I've kind of been able to come in and look at the technology stack of the business, which is also aging, and the way
Did
that
you say ancient?
aging.
Oh, both. Yeah,
Yeah,
got
it's aging. Yeah. Ancient also.
Same.
It is an IBM product that was released in 1959.
Where you're getting it together.
But we're cleaning it up. And moving to a 3PL and looking at different ways that we can run more efficiently and kind of modernize. And so blending the old team with the new team and really focusing on a supportive culture for I hate to say old team and new team or old and young or whatever it might be, because it's not even about that. It's really about finding people who are open to coming in and reaching up and reaching down and learning old processes and thinking how do we innovate and run more efficiently? How do we deliver these products? How do we rebuild brand loyalty? Because I think we can all be pretty honest about it. Most people are like, oh yeah, Chinese laundry, my first pair of shoes, my first pair of heels, they're still around? Wild. And so really shifting the conversation and bringing opportunity. But there are a ton of challenges, especially on the tech side, to find any people who both understand, RPG code and AS400 mainframes and databases.
But also want to live in Ontario?
And also want to live in Ontario, California, and also want to help us bring us into a cloud-based system. That's like a unicorn. If you know a CTO or chief information officer that is down for this challenge, please call me. Shoot me an email. And even just IT talents. So it's been challenging across the board and in the marketing department, but I am lucky to be able to put my fingers on every area of the business, which is fun because you can take the girl out of a startup, but you can't take the startup out of a girl. And so it's still kind of run that way.
Entrepreneurial?
It's very entrepreneurial.
Or
and it's still family owned and operated. And so it's kind of interesting because I've started so many of my own businesses to then come in this really unique time of a business that's been around for 50 years. So
unique meaning very challenging family business dynamics. Got it. Ariane, you mentioned something I want to double click on for a second, because you talked about having a COO that was the yin for your yang or yang for your yin or whatever, but not wanting to do some of the financial things or spreadsheets. And I've heard from a lot of female founders that makes them want to break out into hives and that they don't want to focus on the financial part of the business and just do creative or whatever. How have you grown and developed into that, needing to know about your numbers, but not being in it day to day?
We've really worked out a process. So I can kind of glaze over things and ask some really tough questions, just like on instinctive, like I can kind of see things, but that's only valuable when I'm coming in with a fresh perspective. And so Lindsay, who's my COO, she's the day-to-day. There's a beautiful finance team. We've stacked kind of all the resources there, but it's that fresh lens coming in to really add to the picture. And I've taken value in that instead of feeling insecure and invaluable, or unvaluable, less valuable. In that process, delegating out, because I should be owning everything, right? I'm the founder of this business. I hustled this thing. I own it, end to end. Well, it's just not possible anymore. And so how do I regain that security of my value in these areas that I'm delegating? And so really, I have a CEO coach that's helped me over the years really get to this point. Lindsay and I go through our own coaching together because it's not easy. She's my wife, but we're very different people. She's a problem solver. I'm a dreamer, right? Which is an amazing combination, but on a day-to-day. You're going to definitely, it's going to be an interesting relationship. And so I have just taken real credit for the value that I bring in these areas that I'm delegating out and found my own place in them so that I'm not completely removed, because I am the owner of this company, and so I have to know what's going on. So I make sure that there are checkpoints where any place that somebody else is kind of taking it off my plate, I am inserting and allowing myself that area to feel secure and in the know, so nothing's like too far away.
Well, I love therapy for everyone. Founders too. I've gone through some corporate therapy, which is brutal. Have you guys tried that? You and your co-founder done any coaching or?
No, we haven't, but it sounds great.
I have a couple names for you.
Sarah, have you?
I haven't, but I do love my therapist.
Don't we all? I'd love to open up really quickly. We have 1 minute left to any questions that you guys might have for these fabulous female founders. Yes.
I'm just curious, being female founders, I'm curious if you could talk about what has changed since you started your businesses and what still needs to change.
And there's kind of this backlash. Like I wrote a book called Boss Bitch too. So this idea that we don't want to be a female founder, but a founder. Where do you guys stand on that? Or it doesn't matter? Or just call us whatever as long as you call us.
Well, so, I mean, I guess we'll start by saying it's hard for me, like N=1, to disaggregate my experience from others' experiences, because I have had one founding experience and I happen to be a woman, but I'm not sure how that compares to others' experiences, especially because the business that I'm building is in a stigmatized area where no one will even say the words associated with my business. So I can feel that pressure and stigma, but that's what I feel the most. And so my co-founder and I have combated that with things like in every deck where we pitch venture capitalists on what we're building, we have a periods 101 or a vaginas 101 slide, and we have bullets, and we start with women have periods once a month. It lasts 3 to 5 days on average. On average, a woman uses 14 tampons. Like things like that.
Good talk.
But the female founder thing, what needs to change obviously is funding and access and representation. But I have felt fortunate to have found my niche and to be able to build my business.
Oh my God, I'd love to be a fly on the wall of your pitch meetings. They're like, you're best.
They're fun.
Yeah, I echo what you're saying.
Because I hustled myself, hustled both concepts on my own before being put up for rejection or not getting funding or anyone saying no to me. I had proof of concept, and so gender in that room, when raising money, I let the numbers and the value of what I built kind of speak for itself, and so I haven't faced any issues along the way. I will say, just like the discussion around the female body, around maternity, pregnancy, the last 10 years, there's been an incredible evolution, and we have, as women, our voices are louder, people are listening, and so riding that wave has been incredibly helpful and beneficial. And so I'll take that wind anywhere I can get it. Yes, so that's lovely, and the community has been incredibly strong for each other. I mean, I think I've learned a lot from the people around me, and we're quite giving to one another, which has been lovely.
Some tailwinds, some headwinds, kind of balance out. Sarah, last word.
I started or co-founded Pavement in 2015. So at that time, I feel like the climate was just starting to shift. And so when I was out raising money, there was one particular meeting that stays with me. And it was also difficult, or a different thing, raising money in tech as well. And I was lucky enough that I was the first hire at another tech company that did sell to Amazon. So I had that I could go into the room with, which helped. But there was one investor meeting that I had, and it was in Texas, and I had been rushing around like on the circuit raising money, and my nails weren't done. And the investor looked down at my nails and said, if you can't take care of your hands, your manicure, how are you going to take care of the $5 million that you're asking me for? if you can't even do that. And I was like, I'm like, well, at least I'm not going to be wasting your money on my manicure.
Yes. Perfect answer.
So that was definitely a challenge. I did get that check for the record. I was able to turn it around. But at that point, when I was raising money, and I ended up raising over $30 million for Pavement, there were a lot of ups and downs, and a lot of questions that I don't think a man would have been asked, and it was difficult. And I also am in LA, and at that point, there wasn't as much of a female founder community because it was kind of at the beginning of the wave. Now, I think it's a very different landscape. So when I was going out to raise money for Eternal Fleur and the new business model, and particularly, there are a lot more just female investors that are willing to write checks, and syndicates that are willing to write smaller checks. And I think that that's a really beautiful approach. Mind you, then when I'm talking to men about flowers and all of the money they can save and the environment, they're like, but you also did a tech company? And so I feel like it kind of goes both ways. So I don't know.
So it sounds like there's more stories over drinks.
There's lots of stories over drinks.
Perfect.
But really, I know for me, I would rather be thought of as a founder than as a female founder. And I think that it would be a great thing for us to kind of take that out of the conversation, and we're just business people innovating and changing perspectives and offering great tools and products.
Yes, mic drop. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.